Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie G. I am a compulsive overeater. I only eat food off the gray sheet. I plan my meals, I write them down, I commit them to my sponsor, and I don't eat uh, between meals or no matter what. Um, I my anniversary date is June 22nd, 2024. Um, I haven't spoken in a little while, but I've just asked my higher power to help me through this. I guess to start, I had a typical childhood, typical small town. Although I think I was aware, and I used to get teased quite a bit about having a sweet tooth. But in the household I grew up, they were special occasions, birthdays, holidays. It wasn't like we had a lot of that, stuff in boxes and bags in the house. Um, I do remember in high school sitting at lunch, sort of watching one of my good friends, and he was the kind of guy that was skinny as a rail and could eat basically anything he wanted. I was very jealous of his metabolism, and he could eat basically junk for lunch. Always felt fine. And I actually considered for an English class I had at the time writing a short story about maybe a new evolution of human beings in our population that people, my apparent, my I it appeared to me at that time that there were some people that could eat whatever they wanted and they didn't have to have healthy foods. Of course, as I got older, I realized it's really a lie, that eventually that catches up with you with either health or weight problems later in life. But um, I was very, very active in sports. It seemed to be the only way I had to um, control my weight, and I still felt out of place. I had a more muscly, heavy body, not really a weight problem per se, but I had an image of myself of being humongous because so many of the girls, and it was big. When I was in high school, Title IX was a big thing, and everybody was going out for sports, and we all kind of, you know, jumped on the bandwagon, and so many didn't look like me. They were thin. They had long, willy, beautiful, long blonde hair or whatever, smooth, straight. And I had all the opposite. I had curly, frizzy hair. And even if I sat under a hair dryer for hours, it would go puff as soon as the humidity came out. So then I went to college, and I think that was when I really started to feel like maybe I had a problem with food because I was under a lot of stress. First time to be away from home for any length of time. And then the dining halls had all kinds of food that I never had at home. I mean, I was in a small town. We didn't have a Chinese restaurant. We didn't have a bountiful, this, that, and the other thing. And I quickly gained the freshman 10 and maybe the sophomore 20. And, my family made comments when I came back from school that I was heavier and I sounded like I went to school in Boston, but they said, your accent is weird. It's not Boston. It's like Boston and New York. And I said, well, those are the kids I'm going to school with, New York City, New York. And so that was kind of funny. But after college, I ended up dropping out because I did a foolish thing. I got married. It didn't really last. There were a lot of problems, but one of the things was the guy I married was my soccer coach. And I was really into this sports, being this uber athlete. And we ran in the Boston Marathon. And I envisioned myself as being this, tremendous athlete. but I disappointed him because I didn't lose weight for him. And he said that was one of the major reasons he wanted to get divorced. And so I escaped to Vermont, where my freshman roommate was from, to find myself. And I ended up meeting my husband there, which was the love of my life. But I also continued my pursuit of some kind of athletic career with joining and working for Gloria Stevens. I don't know if it's a West Coast thing, but I know people from the East Coast might recognize it. It was one of those spas with those funny machines that jiggled your fat. And I taught aerobic classes, at least 3 a day. I was the most fit I had ever been in my life, but I wasn't a successful salesperson. I was very bad at closing the deal. It was really more about selling those memberships. But I got into it because I wanted to help women. And we did sort of go over a food plan, but it wasn't a major part of it. It was all about the exercise and selling um, memberships. And I ended up needing to get into another job that could bring more money into the house because I wasn't getting anything on commission. So I got an office job. And then it was almost like college again. I kept gaining weight because I was sitting, I was doing reception work or accounting work. And then there was always food in the office. It was everywhere. People had little bowls of whatever on on their corner of their desk, or there was all these big lunches and these, huge things um, between white things mounded with protein that were like probably enough for a family of three, and I would eat it for lunch. Um, I tried to join gyms, but I join them and then I wouldn't stick with it. Um, and then kind of fast forward to when I was pregnant with my daughter, and I ended up ballooning up to about 200 pounds. I what the only I tried Weight Watchers, I tried so many different things. The only thing that seemed to work was I think it was called LA Weight Loss. It was one where you went in once a week, you weighed in with your counselor or whatever, and it was kind of weighed and measured, but it was like more like, okay, your protein is supposed to be the size of your palm of your hand. It wasn't literal weighing and measuring, it was more eyeballing. And I did lose some weight. But then with trying to raise a daughter and I was kind of a single parent because my husband worked nights for 4 days a week. I just couldn't fit it in my schedule. So fast forward to when I turned 40 and I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And then from there, it just seemed like the diet that they tried to teach me, the American diabetes diet, I could tell right away it had too many carbs in it. And the things I were reading was saying, well, the way they treat diabetes in America is it's more about giving you the insulin or the medicines to cover the carbs you're eating. And it just never made sense to me. But, I followed and it just, my diabetes got worse. I went from one kind of insulin to two kinds of insulin to pills. And then finally I ended up on one of the popular injectable drugs that people are taking now to lose weight. But I ended up kind of getting stuck. And I tried increasing the dosage and I got so nauseous and so sick. I said, no, this isn't sustainable. Um, and in the middle of all this, I ended up having cardiac issues and I ended up with a quadruple bypass. What I didn't understand is that the inflammation from sugar and diabetes sets up a perfect storm for having blockages, um, and the plaques build up in your heart. And my father had cardiac issues, so I should have realized that, but it was sort of like out there, no, that's for older people. But I had just turned 60 And I said to the doctor, well, thank you very much. This is a great present for my 60th birthday. I have to have quadruple bypass, but I made it through.
5 minutes.
Thank you. Um, um, did well with the surgery. I got through the rehab just in time for everything to get locked down for COVID. And I was terrified during COVID because I had the worst possible um, outlook for COVID because I had had recently cardiac surgery. I was a diabetic and I was grossly overweight. I think at that point I was like a good 240, 250, something like that. And then during COVID, I just turned to food. It's always been my emotional comforting. And, I baked things and I made big casseroles, all comfort food. Um, I made some slight attempt to try and shift some of my food and eat more vegetables and, less carbs, but I couldn't really lose the weight. I was constantly, oh, I'll start on Monday, or I do really well for 3, 4 days and then binge on the weekend. Or it was really hard for me when my husband went back to work because um, on Sunday it was like my night. I knew it was my night to binge because he was off to work and I could eat whatever I wanted. Um, but then my daughter was a gray sheeter, um, was very successful with losing weight. But the other thing I noticed that I was really attracted to is how much more at peace she was and how much more she was able to manage her anxieties, her stress at work. And I was really jealous of the community that she had. As a parent of a one child, my always concern was who, and she was single, who's going to take care of her after I'm gone? Who's going to be her support, that's going to be there and take her to the hospital if she needs to go. And then she started telling me and sharing all these wonderful people that she, anonymously, but I did end up meeting one of GreySheeters that she worked with, and I realized she's going to be okay. These people have her back. But I wanted that too. And I resisted. I kept saying, oh, I can do this because I'd watch her, and I can eat like her. Um, but I, I lost doing things like dropping alcohol, dropping some carbs. I was able to lose about 40 pounds on my own. But it really wasn't until I got into Gray Sheet where I really saw the change in me and the immediately I noticed how the cravings went away. My anxiety went down. I was sleeping better. No more pain in my joints. Um, it was a miracle. And I jumped in with both feet, and my daughter was going to the Oregon retreat. And I was only abstinent probably about 30, 35 days at that point. So I did a crash course in how to travel, how to pack food. Um, my daughter is my savior, my mentor. She taught me everything I needed to know about traveling and what to bring on planes and how to negotiate being a gray sheeter. Um, and the group, I was so uh, blown away because I was scared. I wasn't sure what people were going to think. I'm a newbie. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I was panicking in the middle of a meal because all of a sudden I was like, well, I don't know how to weigh this. And then, 8 people at the table like, oh, you just do this. You're fine. You're fine. We got you. And I was like, oh my God, I'm home. I felt like I found my tribe. I've been attending a daily meeting Monday through Friday, the 11th step practice meeting, and I've gotten close to all those people. I then saw him again this year for the retreat, and I've lost over 100 pounds. I've I'm now only taking one diabetes medicine. I've dropped all my blood pressure medicine. Um, I'm hoping to get maybe drop my statin. I'm not sure because of my cardiac history. But it's a miracle, and I'm grateful every day. Thank you.